y'all, this article might be a little triggering for people, so I'm gonna go ahead and preface this. I saw this on Threads, and I just had to do a video on it right here. It says, abuse victim unalived her sleeping partner after he told her to make a cruel choice. Cruel choice. It says Julie Ann McElwain knifed James Crosley 10 times in what a judge describes as brutal and savage. The court on the night of the unaliving, he ordered her to choose between her or her family. So y'all, this story is, you have to buckle up and brace yourself for this story. A domestic abuse victim who stabbed her partner who unalived the partner with a kitchen knife as he slept has been jailed for life. So she got put in jail for life for unaliving her abuser. Julie, 10 times, he knifed him 10 times, what was described as a savage killing in Belfast on March the 2nd. At the time of the unaliving, a restraining order was in place that prohibited Mr. Crosley from being in contact with her. So there is already a restraining order in place, right? There was already a restraining order in place that she had on him. So she seemed like was a victim of domestic violence, but like you see a lot of times, the victims will circumvent the order and go back to the abuser. They will. This happens so many times. I think in certain countries, I think Australia is one of those countries where, you know what I mean? It's one of those countries where you get a restraining order, they make it as difficult as possible for you to go back to them, right? You can't. I don't think you can drop a restraining order in Australia. I could be wrong. My Australia folks, let me know if I'm wrong. I'm okay with being wrong, but yeah. So there's a restraining order in place, and she still went back. You see what I'm saying? The court heard the pair had revived the relationship in secrecy without the knowledge of their families. So nobody knew. Not the lawyers, not the attorneys, not the court. Nobody knew that they had got back together after the restraining order had went in. She went on trial in October as she denied the unaliving charge. So she's like, she didn't, McElwain's defense was that she had caused the death of him by manslaughter based on temporary loss of control as a victim of domestic abuse. The jury, however, didn't accept that she had experienced a loss of control and convicted her of the most, the most devastating charge of unaliving him. It was like she would serve a minimum of 12 years behind bars. So she got to go to jail for at least 12 years. She didn't get life. During the trial, y'all, the court heard that McElwain and Mr. Crosley were in a relationship marked by domestic violence and coercive control. So he was controlling her and abusing her. However, she subsequently, they said she separated from him for a period and stayed in a women's shelter. She went and stayed in a women's shelter. However, she went back to him. She called him from the women's shelter, and they reestablished the relationship. Psychiatric report submitted to the court stated McElwain, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, had been psychologically enmeshed with Mr. Crosley and had been unable to separate. So some people would describe this as a trauma bond, like you get trauma bonded to your victim, to your abuser, right? The judge said an unusual element of the case was that it was the victim of domestic violence who had committed the unaliving. The court heard that on the day of the unaliving, the couple had been involved in an argument during which Mr. Crosley threatened McElwain's family. So he threatened her family, called her children names, and warned that he would ensure that she would never see them again. So, oh goodness. So I didn't know there were kids involved. Goodness. So you see, sometimes even the victims of domestic violence, even when their kids are in danger, sometimes will go back. Even when their kids are involved, will go back. Even when they, their own safety is at risk, will go back. The mind, man, the mind. I don't think people understand how violence and abuse can change your actual mind, the chemistry of your brain, y'all. It was the prosecution's case that the unaliving was callous and premeditated. So they said that she had planned it out. Like she had planned it. The prosecution said she planned to unalive him that night. It occurred when a vulnerable Mr. Crosley was sleeping in an upstairs bedroom after he had consumed alcohol and sleeping tablets. So he was drunk and on drugs. He was drunk and took some pills. Drunk, taking pills. They argued that night. A post-mortem report showed that the level of alcohol in his blood was 2.5 times he was super drunk. They said she went to the kitchen, armed herself with the largest knife in the set, then walked up the stairs. She moved her 10-month-old daughter out of the way before stabbing him. Oh, wow. So he had fell asleep with the baby? Oh, goodness gracious. That's rough right there. With the intention of unaliving him and nothing else. So goodness gracious. So they had a baby together. That is, and he was sleeping with the baby. Y'all see, I didn't read the whole story. I seen the title, and I'm just going through it with y'all. And that's her right there. It's like she was jailed. It said jail for life, but it said minimum of 12 years. So it's 12 years to life. He added that Mr. Crosley was roused from his sleep by the knife attack. He asked McElwain for assistance, but she failed to provide. The defense said that it wasn't premeditated. She snapped. They pretty much said she had snapped because of domestic violence. Like her brain was just warped, and she snapped. She did not want to unalive him. She didn't desire him to be dead at any point prior to the minutes before the fatal assault took place. I feel like that's when you say stuff like that. Like she didn't want to unalive him, but she stabbed him. You see how the jury can take that right there. She didn't want to unalive him. She just wanted to stab him. The defense said that the client had no criminal record, expressed genuine and sincere remorse, and showed empathy for the family of the deceased. Yeah, sometimes you just snap, man. She snapped, and apparently he was abusing her. She had a restraining order, went back, and the abuse and stuff like that continued. He threatened like you never see your kids again. That could be a threat. That could be considered a threat on your life. What does that even mean? I'll make sure you never see your kids again. Well, how, through the courts, or you gonna take my life? See. It said during sentencing, the defendant was undoubtedly Mr. Justice Kinney. So the justice said she was the victim of chronic domestic violence and abuse at the hands of the deceased and was unable to extricate herself from this toxic relationship. So the toxic relationship ended up costing her freedom. And you say, this is such a bad circumstance right here. On the evening of the fatal stabbing, the deceased told the defendant she had a choice to make, to choose him or her family. He said McElwain feared losing everything if social services found out about the relationship, and she would lose her children and end up unaliving herself. She told police the day after the unaliving, "We had a couple altercations in the weeks running to last night, and I felt I had no way of getting out. I just wanted it all to stop." So she stabbed him because she said she wanted it all to stop. She went downstairs, got the knife, and I did push it into him. I didn't want it. I didn't want him to die. He had received considerable number of statements from Mr. Crosley's family circle. These statements describe in detail the importance of the deceased to the wider family, his love of life, and his role as a son, brother, father, and nephew. So his family was always going to be in support of him regardless. You know, they probably didn't think that he was being abusive. Maybe they didn't know, or even they could have supported the abuse. But he meant a lot to us. Who cares what he did to her? In eloquent and moving message language, they paint the full picture of the devastating impact of his death individually. They feel the heartache, special occasions. The family said they're going to miss him. It's an extremely difficult case. She had caused my manslaughter based on temporary loss of control. The jury didn't accept that she experienced loss of control, convicted her, sentenced her to 12 years to life, y'all. It's a sad reminder that no one should ever take into the law of their own hands, and I want to appeal to anyone, irrespective of gender or background, who is experiencing or has experienced domestic abuse, to please speak up. It can, it really did ended up costing her freedom. Right. Going back into a toxic relationship. Y'all know on my other channel, my mental illness channel, I talk about toxic relationship dynamics all the time and how difficult it can be to leave them. And this is like a telltale sign right here that like sometimes if you go back into them, it could absolutely cost you not only your life and your freedom. It really could. It's a sad story all around, y'all. This is on the UK news, the Mirror. It's the article from the Mirror. Y'all see it right here, y'all. Sucks. Now the kids don't have a dad or a mom. And his family's probably going to get it. And his family probably, who knows? His family might get the custody of the kids, and she might not. The end result might be her not seeing her kids again. Anyway, y'all, be safe out there. Protect yourself. Protect your peace. And if you have a restraining order on somebody, it's for a reason. Please try your hardest not to go back into that relationship. And I am out. Peace.